Hi there, I'm Brendan Hemingway. I'm a co-founder of Pythia Cyber, and I'm here today with Ted Hayes, also a co-founder of Pythia Cyber.
Hi, I'm Ted Hayes. Thank you for watching the video, and we're going to talk to you this segment about two different ways of thinking about the CISO role and how you can have a more holistic view of what that CISO is about. We're going to talk about uh, first of all the person, the CISO, um, and then we're going to talk maybe about from a leadership perspective, how you how you'd evaluate your candidates for a CISO role.
So we've done some other videos where I've done most of the talking about the technological aspects of being a CISO, but a lot of people ask me what a CISO does, but I realize that if you're looking for a CISO, you want to think a bit about who they are. So today we're going to ask Ted to explain to us who might be a good candidate for being a CISO, and then, as he said, how to identify them. So tell us, Ted, why does someone become a CISO?
Well, there are many particular reasons why someone might want this role. It's important to think about who is trying to get this role and then what they bring to the table because everybody brings something slightly different. In this particular role, what we'd like you to think about is the following. As a CISO, your authority is pretty well defined. And maybe it should be broader. Maybe there's some ways where it's a little bit more narrow, but it's pretty well defined. However, which is unusual in some organizations, your capacity to influence people is very broad because you're running a program or you are a source of information about security, cybersecurity, possibly information security, personnel security. So, because your role touches on so many aspects of the organization at such a significant level, you can have influence with other areas. So, let's think a little bit about why someone would want that role. You're going to be influencing other people, which means that even if you love technology, maybe this is something you grew up with, you've gotten really good at the tech part. Um, you do have to deal with other people in terms of peer relations, in terms of being a reference, in terms of telling things to people that who might be less technically savvy than you are. So you might have a real technical orientation. You might be a big people person, be pretty agreeable, someone who people just naturally confide in. Well, that's fine too. But you do have to tell people no. You have to be technically savvy. And the more technically savvy you are, more knowledgeable, the more you'll be able to influence the chief technology officer or the CIO, the more you'll be able to deal with external vendors who wish to provide you services. So there is there's the more technical person, there's the more people person. Maybe you went into this role, which, I mean, let's face it, it's very typical, because you wanted to move into leadership. You wanted to get out of the cube farm. And this seemed like maybe a little less intimidating than moving into the CIO, the CTO role. Uh, and it was something where you could get a leg up. Move into leadership is a big shift for people. It can be a little daunting because now you're going to be seen as someone who is on the org chart, let's say. And so now you're having maybe to do performance reviews, you're having to do budgeting, things like that. So with that big move up, which seems attractive, there are a lot of things you need to attend to. So there's the technical part, there's the people part, there's the leadership part. Maybe you like the intellectual curiosity part. As we've discussed in other videos, the nature of cybersecurity is changing rapidly. You not only have to deal with the, the circuits and the servers and the physical part of maintaining security, but there's also adversarial work that's being done either through insiders wishing to compromise a system for money or glory or what have you, or from artificial intelligence agents that are attacking your systems looking for vulnerability because they wish to get information that you do not wish to provide. So there could be, as I think we could easily see, some intellectual challenge involved with it too. But at the same time, you still have to influence other people to buy into your vision. So I think it's important when we think about that CISO to think about what that person brings to the table. What is their motivation? Because their motivation is going to be a source of action and energy for that person. And if it's you as the CISO, then you need to build that out and make sure that you're doing the other parts too. Can't just be the biggest people person, can't just be uh, the biggest technologist. Um, and if you're looking to hire that person, bring that person into that role, then you need to know what you're looking for. Do you want someone who's going to be more of a people person? Do you want someone who's going to be more of a technologist? And I think that provides a bit of a challenge from both the individual perspective as well as the leadership perspective. So that's how I'd look at this particular question. We talk about cybersecurity. Ultimately, people need to change, and the first person who needs to change is the CISO.
So from the coming from the technical side of the house, I'm really struck by you keep using the word influence. And in my world, there is more of an element of taking orders from people above you and giving orders to people below you.
Right.
But you're really painting CISO as less like uh, a technical lead and more like a diplomat.
There's a lot of people process involved with cybersecurity. And now I happen to have a behavioral cybersecurity perspective, so I see things through that lens. At the same time, though, remember there are going to be guidelines, there are going to be rules, there are going to be maybe investigations you run, there's going to be discussions with other leaders or the chief technology officer, CIO. Um, all of that is the people stuff. They're going to want to know why. And especially if you're dealing with highly technical material where people can glaze over quickly, um, I believe we use in another context ego, right? Eyes glazed over. When that happens quickly, you're going to be more effective when you can bring people back to the why the cybersecurity suggestion is being brought up. Why can't people access this site? Why does that server room need to be air conditioned and have separate power source? Why do we need to check the routers on a more frequent basis? All of those are why questions, and that involves other people.
So I could see how, especially if you're a technologist, it would take a bit of a mind shift to go from saying this guy's a senior tech or this gal's a senior tech and they should be giving me specific instructions to not getting frustrated with them when, because they're in risk management, they're giving overall directions. But how does that play out when you're talking about how a CISO interacts with other members of the executive team?
Many times, the CTO or the CIO is going to have a much broader portfolio of responsibilities. And what we want that CISO to do is be an expert, either evangelist, technologist, um, something between those two poles on cybersecurity. That is that person's responsibility. So that's why their authority is very narrow. Because out of the range of things you could consider from a C-suite perspective in terms of investment in technology, managing risk, and so on, security seems like maybe not the most exciting thing, but that's what you're focused on as a CISO. And in order to get airtime and influence other people so that the risks are managed better, you need to get them. to understand the why at the level that affects them, right? So we talk about what's in it for me with them. And that's where you're going to be successful, regardless of your motivation as a CISO.
So is this another aspect of what you mean by saying we need commitment, not compliance? Getting people to buy in from other departments, or am I misconstruing that?
So compliance is when people do things according to your authority. Commitment is when people do things according to your influence. And I think it's not much of a stretch to see why it's important from a security perspective, which sometimes could just be seen as just no, right? Um, to get them to commit to being an employee, doing things in a secure manner, even when it's not necessarily written in black and white.
So I need, as a CISO, I need to change people's behavior, even if they're not my direct reports, ideally by sharing my vision with other senior management members or more directly. How does that work?
So you want to get people to change their attitude. And a lot of times that's because you're able to explain the what's in it for me. You're able to explain how the cybersecurity part enhances the performance of the organization. Now, performance of the organization means different things to different people. It means different things to people in sales than it does in operations, than it does in marketing, and so on. So, if security means different things in a positive way to each one of those camps, if you will, now you've got allies and you have influenced people who might not ordinarily think about how cybersecurity is part of their job. Cybersecurity makes their operations better, um, to play along and be your champion and help you create commitment and not just compliance.
Well, and that brings us to a question I get asked, but I can only answer half of it. I'm hoping you can do the other half. When people say, wow, I think we need a CISO, what should their qualifications be? I'm comfortable saying here's the level of technological expertise they have to have and the concepts they have to understand. But it sounds like you're saying a good part of the job, maybe even the majority of it, has more to do with the human interaction parts. In which case, if I'm interviewing such a person, what are the traits I'm looking for?
So that's entirely right. As someone who's coming up with a slate of candidates, you're reviewing people, interviewing them, just getting a sense of whether this person is going to move your business or not. In part, as someone doing that assessment, whether you're an executive or a team member or HR coming up with a set of questions, you need to give significant consideration to how you want that person to influence other people in the organization. And I don't mean that they have to look right. Sometimes, especially in a sales organization, you refer to Ken and Barbie, the 42 long. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is, can this person connect with other people about the value of cybersecurity in an organization? And that connection could be because they have some people person skill. Maybe they communicate concepts well. Maybe they can get you excited about the the technology aspects involved. Maybe they can talk about why it's important from a perspective of dealing with external agents as well as keeping people safe. So all of those are valid considerations. You have to decide first in terms of your own organization what you want to emphasize. If you're a brand new startup, you just need someone who's going to do all sorts of things, and that's really being a little bit more entrepreneurial, which is kind of a weird role for a CISO. But that's what you need to start out with. As a more mature organization, maybe a bigger one, you need someone who's going to manage the process and get other people to, well, at one level, play along, feel like this is important, see how it works for their business unit, commit to cybersecurity even when it's not on that document in front of them, or maybe when it's a little inconvenient. So from a hiring perspective, an assessment perspective, you got to give serious consideration to how you see that person contributing to the organization. Are they more of a tech person? Are they more of a people person? Where are you going to be comfortable in terms of trading off those two?
All right. Well, thanks. I think that's we've bitten off enough, I think, for people to chew on a little bit. If you're a CISO, we'd love to hear in the comments whether this actually reflects the way you think and approach your job. And if you're looking to hire a CISO, we'd love to know if this helps you direct your thinking about that. And you can find us on the web at www.pythiacyber.com. Thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you again.